Good evening, everyone. It is now 6:30 p.m. This is the regular meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. We're located at 200 Lakeview Parkway, Red Oak, Texas. We have one consent agenda item tonight, and here present is myself, Derek Parks, the chair. We have Karen, member, Scott, member, is present. And we have Mr. Kevin here also. And also, too, with the city, we have Ben, which is Director of Development Services, and we have Emma, Planning and Zoning Manager. Have anyone by Zoom?
Booney said he was going to get on, and I think Darren as well. Is Darren going to get on? John, did they both sign in on Zoom?
Christopher Orr and Nathan for him.
Okay, those are the applicants.
Okay.
Okay, so right now, the other members are not on.
Okay. And if they do, I will.
Yeah, we just note what time they get on and everything.
Okay.
If we see them on.
So, I guess the consent agenda item tonight is, the first one is approving the minutes from March the 6th of 2023. Commissioners, do y'all have any questions related to the meetings from March the 6th? And if not, can I have a motion, please? Motion to approve as presented. Second. All in favor? Okay, the minutes from March the 6th have been approved. Moving along to the new business, which is number 2, is conduct a public hearing and consider a zoning change from plan development 66R4 to plan development 66R5 for the development of an office building on the property described as a tract of land out of the Benjamin Fraser Survey, abstract number 371. Edmund Shirley Survey, abstract number 1013, and the John Spoon Survey, abstract number 1014, on the northeast corner of East Ovilla Road and North State Highway 342 in the city of Red Oak, Ellis County, Texas. Case number Z as in zebra, C as in cat, 23-04, requested by Alamo Mission LLC and Red Oak Industrial Development Corporation.
Good evening, Commissioner. This is a zoning change request to construct an office building on Lot 1, Block A of the proposed Alamo Mission subdivision. The office building will be developed in 3 phases and will be a total of 28,540 square feet. The developer has submitted development plans, landscape plans, and elevation plans. And they submitted a variation of colors for the elevation plan and went with the beige color. The plans are in conformance with the original PD that was approved, recommends approval. If you see on the screen, you see site plan data center that was approved earlier this year into office building to be constructed in 3 phases.
No, it's like Emma said, she covered everything. It's in conformance with the original zoning. They just had to kind of show us what they were actually building. So that's what this is, elevation and basic site plan.
Okay, all right, thank you, Ben. This is a public hearing, so those in favor of this item, we will ask you to go first, please, and those that's against this item, go second, or if you had questions, you can go second. But those that are present, if you are for this item, you can go to the podium and give us your name and your address, please. Or if you're on Zoom, state your name and give us your address, please. Anyone against this item? Can I have a motion to close the public hearing, please?
Move to close the public hearing.
All right, the public hearing has been closed. Also, to make note, we have the alternate, we have Meg, she arrived here at 6:32 p.m. so we do have another alternate here, present here tonight. Commissioners, based on agenda item 2, you have anything I want to, anything that stands out, anything you want to talk about regarding agenda item 2? Any questions I have for staff?
And, can you catch me up a little bit on, the electrical grid impact of all of these data centers, and are they, I've seen that they built their own stuff back there, is that?
Yeah, so they have, and I'm by no means an expert, but if you'll look at the, kind of follow me on the map here, we've got the main 340 kilovolt line coming up, is that what it is? That comes through the site and then was, previously right there at, Houston School and, Pebble Creek, there's an existing, station there. So what they did is, in a joint effort between Compass and Google, they put in a substation that would service both properties, I believe. I do believe there's also room for another substation on the Google site for an additional substation there as well. But what they have done, or what is in process, is there is another, up here, along 342. I'm not exactly sure where it is, but there's another large substation up in this area, and what Oncor is working on right now is backfeeding this whole site. And what I mean by that is they're from wherever the station is up here, they're bringing a line down Bear Creek and down Houston School Road, so that it's got a looped connection. So now this whole kind of site here is looped from an electric grid standpoint. I don't have a lot of expertise on that, and so all I know is what they've told me, and they, I mean Oncor.
And this is just a request that I would personally like to, at some point, hear from Oncor. Also, and the city council need to figure that. They usually report to us every now and then on council, but I'd like to see what the impact of this is, and to be able to ask questions of those experts.
Okay.
If that's something that we can, before we continue to merge forward on what's obviously going to be high volume.
Sure.
Impact.
Sure. Yep. We'll reach out to them and see if they have some maps or basic reports they can share with us that are easy enough for everyone to understand.
Yeah, right.
That's all I have.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Scott. Yes. Anyone else? Questions? Or if not, can I have a motion for agenda item 2, please?
Move we approve, agenda item 2 as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. Agenda item 2 has been approved. Moving along, agenda item 3, which is another conduct a public hearing and consider a residential replat for Green Valley Acres addition, subdividing Lot 6, Block 2 into 2 lots, Lot 6A and 6B. Lot 2 located north of Crestview Drive and approximately 1,250 feet east of Lawrence Road, situated in the Warren Survey, abstract number 1154, City of Red Oak, Ellis County, Texas, case number P as in Paul, S as in Sam 23-05, requested by Kimberly Holmes. That, please.
This is a residential replat request to subdivide Lot 6, Block 2 of Green Valley Acres Edition into 2 lots as shown on the attached plat. Each lot will meet the minimum R3 zoning standards, and will each be approximately 1 acre in size. Staff recommends approval of the request as presented, as it's in compliance with the, minimum zoning standards and the comprehensive, R3. So it far exceeds all of the, size requirements. Going to have to come and get a, permit.
So it's basically taking this 321 right here in the red and just splitting it in half, which, has already happened several times in the subdivision.
Okay.
We just had to confirm that they would meet the side yard setbacks and that they were, I think these buildings were, removed.
It's on the flat.
Oh, it is. Yeah, so they're actually bending the lot line around this to keep this one, and there was one up here that they removed, but, other than that, it's just a basic replat,
Okay.
so they can build a new home here.
These are on, should wait till I change station.
No.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, this is also a public hearing, so those in favor of this item, you can go first, or if you have any questions regarding this item, you can go second. So those in favor of item, agenda item 3, please state your name and your address, please. Do we have anyone against agenda item 3, or if someone has any questions regarding agenda item 3? Can I have a motion to close the public hearing, please?
Move we close the hearing?
All in favor? All right. Commissioners, do you have any, questions or concerns regarding agenda item 3?
So these are all on septic, right?
These are actually on sewer. There's sewer there. Some of these may be on septic because the land was developed prior to sewer there, but since then, sewer has been installed along, in the streets, and so they do have access to sewer.
Okay. I just was getting at the house that's there, I assume it's septic lines are not crossing over to the other lot.
Right, yeah, and so that was another thing we looked at, because we had to make sure that their lot line was far enough over that they didn't have to, like, move their water meters and stuff like that, in case we didn't want this person's water meter to be on this lot, right? And then the sewer line actually runs right down the side of the property here, and then into the front, so they can either connect to the front or to the side.
The owner is planning to sell that lot,
Correct.
not build something
Yeah.
of their own? Okay.
Can I have a motion, please, for agenda item 3?
Move we approve item 3 as presented.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Agenda item 3 has been approved. Moving along, agenda item 4, which is conduct a public hearing and consider an amendment to the City of Red Oak, Texas, 2022 Comprehensive Plan and Future Land Use Map to include daycare center, child as a recommended land use under the educational, institutional, and special uses category and planning area 15 in the City of Red Oak, Ellis County, Texas. Case number Z as in zebra, C as in cat, 23-06, requested by Christopher and Tanya Moore. Staff, please.
Current property owner purchased the property within the, planning area 15 in 2021 before the adoption of the city's 2022 comprehensive. The plans included the construction of a daycare center. And at the time of purchase, 2021, the 2010 comprehensive plan had this designated as planning area 10, which included child care facilities in the. And since then, it has been changed to TA 15, which excludes child daycare as a recommendation. The planning area 15 designation was created with the intention of supporting an urban mixed-use area that will incorporate a variety of residential, retail, dining, and service options. Child daycare center use would contribute to a mixed-use urban area by providing educational, care services to children in the surrounding area. Staff recommends support of the request because it's ultimately going to support all of the future residential and mixed-use goals in this area. And also, the planning area 15 is concentrated in that one central area, that dark pink area in that southwest corner of 342 and Ovilla. So that area is either in our ETJ and it's developed with single-family homes, or it already has a planned development on there that was approved for a type of zoning. So that doesn't child daycare.
Thank you. Those are in favor of this item, since this is a, public hearing, you can go first. And those who have questions regarding this item or against this item, you can go second. So those that are in favor, you can please state your name and your address, please.
Christopher Orr, 7260 Brook Boulevard, Midlothian, Texas. In favor of building the daycare. We'd like to build capacity in Red Oak. We've operated out of Red Oak since 2016. Our current facility is a child placing center for foster care and adoption, and we'd like to do wraparound services with the daycare.
Thank you, Christopher. Anyone else? Or is there anyone else that has any questions regarding this agenda item? Can I have a motion to close the public hearing, please?
Motion to close.
All in favor? Public hearing has been closed. Commissioners, do you have any questions or concerns?
Then we had, just went through police, fire, on any kind of traffic concerns or?
No, not on this. We'll get to it in the next, item, but it's a smaller facility, with multiple points of access on to 342. Sorry, I didn't pull up the map there. So it's got this kind of shared, there's two driveways here with a shared, and so their site will be here with an additional driveway so you've got multiple means of ingress, egress. That on the next one, but.
I don't really believe it's fair to change the rules in the middle of the game when we've already told them it was okay and they originally came forth on this, so.
All right. And could I have a motion, please?
Move we approve item number 4 as presented.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. Agenda item 4, has been approved. Moving along to agenda item 5, which is another conduct a public hearing and consider zoning change from, highway oriented, HO, to planned development 149 for the development of a daycare center on the property located approximately 2,150 feet south of Ovilla Road and east of State Highway 342, described as Lot 2, Block 1, Nell Business Park Number 2, situated in the B.E. Fraser Survey Abstract 371, City of Red Oak, Ellis County, Texas. Case number Z as in zebra, C as in cat, 23-05, requested by Christopher and Tanya Orr.
This is a zoning change request to change the zoning on the property from, as addressed as 504 State Highway 342, from highway oriented to planned development 149 for the development of a child daycare center. The owner plans to construct a 5,850 square feet child care facility with a fenced outdoor play area. There will be a canopy at the front of the building which will serve as a student drop-off and pickup area. The building will be a mixture of brick, stucco, and stone. The attached site plan, landscape plan, and elevation plans have been reviewed by staff and are in compliance with the city's development standards. Staff recommends approval of the, and, as Ben alluded to earlier, they will have an access, they have been in contact with the, Texas Department of Transportation, and, the engineer did agree that if they were to close off a section, south of that property where it's, off of 342, that they will be allowed to have another driveway approach. So they're gonna have access directly to the site, and they're also going to have a shared access from the site to the site. And there will be an outdoor play area, to the site, where it will be fenced by a 6-foot metal fence. And they, either metal or city.
Thank you, staff. This is a public hearing, so, those that are in favor of this item, please state your name, your address, and, you can go first, please.
As stated before, Christopher Orr, 7260 Brook Boulevard, Midlothian, Texas. Benevolent House Academy. Yes, we'd like to build on this lot. Again, as I stated before, we feel like there is a capacity need here in Red Oak, and this goes well with our current business model. We currently work with the Department of Family and Protective Services, so building a daycare would just fit well with what we already do. So yeah, we'd like approval.
Thank you, Chris. Anyone else? Or is there anyone else that have any questions regarding agenda item 5, I'm sorry. If not, can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Move to close the public hearing.
All in favor? Public hearing has been closed. Commissioners, do you have any questions?
Now, I'll ask one question.
Already
Police
answered
and
those.
fire review?
I mean, from a review standpoint of when we do our kind of team meeting that has everybody in the room, yes. But they review it more intensely at the time of permitting. Yeah,
You know,
yeah, no,
I'm always gonna ask that question.
right, and it's like when we have these team review meetings where we're in there with the applicant and the site designer and everybody, fire and police as well.
And, how far is the facility from 342? What's the setback?
More than 25 feet, which is, okay, you got a 30-foot utility easement in the front, plus another, I believe this is another 20-foot easement here. So 50-ish feet from the property line, which is from the actual edge of the road, you're gonna be about 80 from the actual edge of pavement.
You don't see any potential issue with that, with, forward planning of expanding Highway 342?
So it's already been platted, so presumably all dedicated right-of-way has been achieved. So when they do expand it within the bounds of the right-of-way, you'll still end up with somewhere in between 10 and 14 feet of parkway, which is, you know, the grass between the curb and the property line, which is similar to like Ovilla Road, in the ultimate section. Obviously, there's some sections right now of Ovilla that are smaller and bigger.
I'm asking that on behalf of the applicant, actually.
Okay.
I know, well, I haven't talked with the applicant, but I know that on Ovilla Road, we have
Right, oh, so,
major concern
yeah.
right now with That's why.
Buildings being taken down, yeah, so this is beyond that, right? So, right now, there's 100 feet of right-of-way, or that's the bare minimum, that the state has along 342. And then when plats are coming in, we're getting 10 feet on each side, so that it's 120 feet total, which fits a massive 6-lane, medians and turn lanes and all that. So, there won't be buildings being taken down, on 342.
We never thought that would happen on
Yeah.
Miller Road back in the day either.
Right.
I just want to make sure. And then, I guess my last question would be, the fenced area is located, can you just show me that again, it's on the rear of the building?
The playground area?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's behind the building here. You've got the parking kind of laid out here. The drop-off is in the front, right? And then your building, your playground, your parking, and then your dumpster way in the back.
I just want to make sure there's nothing close to a highway, to a major
right.
roadway.
Right, right.
Just looking out that way. Okay, good.
Have a motion, please? Agenda item 5.
I move we approve agenda item 5 as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Agenda item 5, has been approved. Moving along to agenda item 6. This is a discussion item, to consider amending the City of Red Oak, Code of Ordinance and the City of Red Oak zoning ordinance to provide for donation, box regulations in the City of Red Oak, Texas, requested by the city staff. Staff, please.
City of Red Oak currently does not have an ordinance which regulates the operation of donation boxes on outdoor properties or process to receive a permit to operate. Donation box can generally be described as any drop box area, container, or other receptacle that is intended for use as a collection point for accepting donated textiles, clothing, shoes, books, toys, dishes, household items, or other salvageable items of personal property. Donation box use is therefore considered new and enlisted, and our code must be amended to permit and regulate use. Former and current donation boxes in the City of Red Oak have been associated with overflowing of donated items and litter in surrounding areas. It is therefore recommended that standards be created to regulate the use of donation boxes. We currently don't have anything regulating them, and our code enforcement officer and other citizens have noted that a lot of the areas have been there's an overflow of donated items. There's been a lot of trash and property owners don't really have anything regulating the permitting process, maintenance of those areas. So it's kind of like a item to discuss, regulation.
Right,
No
so,
action.
yeah, we just simply want to know, is this something you guys would support so that we could, write it up, bring it back to you, and then present it to council? Because we have a hard time, we have no way of getting a hold of some of them.
Right.
That don't have, like, phone numbers and stuff on them, so we can't even call them and say, hey, somebody came by and dropped off a bunch of stuff, which is great, but now it's overflowing, can you please come get it? And so then we're trying to contact the property owner, and the property owner, well, I don't know who put it out there.
Right.
And then additionally, they're putting them in parking lots, which is fine, except for, okay, well, are they taking up parking? Because this picture right here, I've got a donation bin taking up a whole bunch of parking, and I've got a bunch of donations taking up 4 parking spaces, right? So
But they don't get approved from,
sometimes they don't.
Like
Sometimes they
Walmart.
do, but then it's, we're stuck trying to find an absentee
Yeah.
property owner, especially on the commercial stuff. They're owned by, LLCs with
Yeah.
many layers of people and management companies and on down the list. But, so it's something we have very little control of, and we have very little ability to enforce any kind of regulation, because we don't have any regulation,
So would this mean we would make it something?
basically, it would just be, if you wanna do a donation box, that's fine, here's some basic rules and guidelines, but more importantly, give us all your contact information, so that when it's overflowing, we know who to contact. But, the way we we drafted up, did you put the draft in there, or no? Okay, were you just gonna talk about it, or, okay, sorry, I'll let you talk about it.
Yeah, that's right. So basically, the ordinance would regulate, distance, it would regulate the maintenance of it would regulate the color of it. It would also regulate, distance from the building, just to make sure that it, adheres to all setback, requirements, that there's at least one parking space provided for the, donation bin, so it's not, taking up any of the existing, parking for the site. And kind of get your take as to, if you all see any sort of other recommendations that can regulate donation boxes. They're great, they just make sure that.
No dumpster
Yeah.
diving. Yeah, unfortunately, it's attracting a lot of trash.
Yeah.
No dumpster diving.
Right.
Right. It's not up against the street.
So the maintenance regulation might say something like if you don't take in these overflowing donations by a certain time period, you could be fined, or?
Yeah, so there's two different components, right? It's the code of ordinances where we can kind of include the donation bin in the property maintenance portion of the code of ordinances, and then zoning as a use, right? So your use of this, land for a donation box. So, it'll cover both aspects, but we'll use the code of ordinance piece to enforce, and that would carry just your, probably $500 a day fine, or whatever our standard language is.
And it'd also be limited to certain zoning districts.
Right, yeah, we don't want them in a residential neighborhood, it's fine, and it's, again, we don't wanna eliminate them necessarily, we just wanna make them look nice. And again, just make sure we know who's doing it and how to get a hold of them if something goes awry.
I looked this up a little bit last, just Google, and I saw that the city of Arlington, they had a pretty, breakdown of these, donation boxes. I think I saw $500 for a fine or
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah.
So, just by me glancing at it, I thought there was pretty, I don't know if it would add something to it, how the city is doing.
Yeah, yeah, one of the items that I was thinking would be good is, it's, we can do it by district, but then I'd also like to have them where you can't see them from the big roads, right? Like, so 200 feet from the frontage road of 35 and 200 feet from the frontage road of Ovilla, stuff like that. Now, I can't remember, did we say, we said it can't be in the front, right?
Right, yeah, there's a picture off of, 35, where it's like right up, yeah, it's that.
Yeah, so that's on I-35, it's 12 feet from it's probably 2 feet from the property line and 12 feet from the edge of the pavement.
There's one at Street 42 in Red Oak, too, at the corner where the
Uh-huh.
gas station is.
Oh, yeah, that's.
Yeah, that's this one right here.
I think the worst one is the one behind, the Burger King.
Burger King, yeah, that's.
Yeah, I saw that the other day. I'm like,
Yeah.
That was removed, right?
I think we got them to clean it up,
Clean it up.
but the box is still there, because we can't tell them. Yeah.
That definitely needs to inform some regulations there.
Okay. Is there any kind of coloring or material, or is there any input that you might want to have, like on this front end? Obviously, when we bring it back to you, we can have more input and more thought about it, but just off the top of your head, is there just something that jumps out to you to say like, well, they should all be green, or they should all be white, or,
Well, I guess I would wanna know what was, available to the market, and then maybe pick something from that. And say,
Yeah.
This is a good standard, and these are the color selections they have, and we can pick from that,
yeah.
rather than
Okay, we'll
shoot from the hip.
we'll do some research on that.
And imagine some organizations might have their own you know, certain.
Yeah, I'm sure there's like some, they want some kind of brand recognition,
Yeah.
I'm
Right.
sure.
And then I would think, like, there's this picture, the bunch of red ones on 342, they look like you've already included part of your regulations is that they say who they're for.
Right.
You know, it says what
Yeah,
you're
so
donating to.
Exactly, that's our big problem too, is like there's no markings at all, and
But,
so,
I mean, not even, of course, they don't need to put the contact info on there necessarily, maybe if you want that, that's fine, but just know what
Right.
organization we're supporting by donating.
yeah, 'cause honestly, I don't even know what they're doing with all this stuff. Are they literally like recycling it into insulation, or are they like recycling and helping out unfortunate people? I have no idea.
Well, honestly, we talking about that, I know a guy that has a lot of these, and what he does is, he has a place in Arlington. Brings it in, he dumps it, you have people sorting the clothes out, so I walked through that, so I didn't know. When he said he had those, I went to go see what he was doing with them.
Yeah,
So what he does, he has a baler, and he compresses all these clothes, and he says all his stuff is overseas. So he ships everything out. So he sorts, bails it, makes it real tight, like in a box, in one ball. He loads them on containers, and they shipped out. I don't think anything stays
that is wild.
in the United States. Everything is gone.
So so he's selling these? I mean, is it by the pound? I mean, that
I don't know,
blows
yeah.
my mind.
Yeah, he does, he's doing very well with
I
those
know a fellow
boxes.
that-
He's doing very well with those boxes.
Yeah,
But just like what Emma said, that's a business.
Yeah, it
That's
is.
not a,
yeah.
and that's not what the spirit of, I guess what I thought the ordinance would be about, is the spirit is you're literally donating, because now you're talking about a recycling use.
Right.
Yeah,
Which is
that's what I thought, man, when I
prohibited
walked in.
everywhere.
When I started watching, I'm like, wow.
Yeah,
You know, he's always, because I got in contact with this guy from the real estate side, he was looking for a warehouse space. He just keeps expanding.
yeah.
You know, he's looking for more just warehouse space in Arlington.
I can't believe that he could sell that for enough money to even ship it anywhere.
Oh, yeah, people make a lot of money from it, especially out of like Nigeria, like, all
They,
that.
they containerize it.
You get like $10 a pound for that or something? I mean,
His overhead's the collection point
Collection
Right.
point.
and collecting it and then shipping it.
It gets the stuff for free.
And I know a guy who does that, and if they grade it, and some of it gets packaged and resold as clothing, and some of it gets packaged and resold as rags. And there's a huge market for rags.
Yeah. When I walked in, there was a pile of stuff that's probably about the size of this room. We just had, it was pile of stuff, and you had like 20 people in there, you had an office, you had a forklift, you had the truck sitting over there, you had the
That
milling
is
machine.
this is blowing my mind right now. I'd love to go
I would,
see that and see his book.
I would like to see a maximum number of collection
Do we have that?
bins and a maximum size for the dimensions.
Yeah, we have, I know we definitely have the dimension.
Yeah.
Okay, but maximum number.
Maximum number, yeah, 'cause like that one, there's like,
That's silly.
well, this, and then the other one that's got like 5 or 6 of them, the green ones?
Yeah.
Yeah, 4?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, you know,
Do you mean a maximum number per site or maximum for the city?
per site, per site. I mean, that guy, you know, they gave up 4 parking
Yeah, it should
spots.
just be one. At one or like one per acre or something, I can't remember what it was, but.
Yeah, maximum number and maximum dimensions.
Okay, well, we will, we'll work on that with those suggestions, and we'll try to do some research on the, more of the aesthetic maybe we can come up with. Hopefully bring it back next month.
Okay, some of them have, that it tilts, it's got a great thing on it, so you can't actually get in there and get the stuff.
Right.
All right, guess moving along, the next item is, item 7, is to discuss chapters 10 and 11 of, Subordination, Rise of Sprawl, and the Decline of the American Dream. Emma sent out an email those chapters that, discuss on.
Okay, so we started on the last two chapters of Suburban Nation. And chapter 10 focused on basically a lot of the concepts that were discussed throughout the book and really how to make a town. One of the major components that was discussed was develop in the city with urban infill or to develop in the ex-urban. Right, and what to consider when making that decision.
I appreciate what they're trying to do, but I look at us here in North Texas, and we're so spread out, and some of what they're talking about doesn't apply to Red Oak or a lot of places because there's not going to be that office-type community. Even though we've got all these great data centers coming in, the actual head count in those is relatively small compared to a regular business. So, like the one area, what was it called? It's a great idea and it looks good. The Main Street in Riverside, Georgia, where you've got all the office space and the retail and everything. Those types of things I don't see playing down here because we're basically a bedroom community. Would you agree? Yeah.
Could we become more if we had the office space? Could our face change a little bit if we had the office space? Right now, we don't have office space if you wanted to set up your workplace, you gotta do it on your house.
Yeah, I just think that we need to start thinking more progressively about how we develop all of these homes and how the traffic is, clogging up the roads from all of these people because they have to go all the way to Walmart or all the way in town if they're gonna shop there, or get on 35 and go to other cities. I think we need to start thinking about how we can incorporate the development of that retail space within those neighborhoods. Because I don't know that we do that now. I don't know. I don't know if we have it zoned that way.
Yeah, so actually in the comprehensive plan, instead of just, because a lot of cities will just say, okay, you can only do single-family residential, you can only do commercial, you can only do office. Our comprehensive plan allows for flexibility where there's single-family residential and there's going to be a retail component part of the site. The authors refer to it as a corner store.
Right.
Rather than just, your typical retail. So it meshes in with the site. It can even look like one of the homes, depending upon how it's designed. And then that increases walkability.
I can just see another 7-Eleven.
Unfortunately, what we usually end up with is another 7-Eleven. And that's not to say that 7-Elevens don't have their purpose, but what they're talking about is a market where you can go and buy fresh fruit and you can buy, sundries to run your household. In my travels to major metropolitan areas, you see a lot of those smaller markets. It's just wedged in somewhere. My first experience was in London. And the thing I learned in London was that people shop for 1, 2, 3 days. And they go to the market on their way home because they walk by it.
Right.
Here when we go shopping, we go shop for how long? A week, 2 weeks, we go to Sam's for a month.
Right.
So, a neighborhood market's a great idea, but, something like an Aldi, it's not a Walmart, it's not even as big as a Walmart marketplace, the mini Walmarts. That would be great, But, you know, if I'm gonna come down here and build a $500,000 home, which is pretty much what fairly typical now, I want it all in my neighborhood.
Well, I know Dollar General seems to be a popular little place to go, get
Yeah.
some groceries, you know, and sundries.
Yeah, so the issue, and we've addressed that with our zoning, and Karen can speak on that, but we actually eliminated the ability of Dollar Generals to replicate themselves within the city.
Right.
Because they don't sell fresh
Right.
food. And so what it creates is competition for the bigger supermarkets and especially smaller supermarkets, if we wanted to have any, because they sell the very,
High margin.
yeah, the high margin, prepackaged, high shelf life foods. Yeah, they're very processed, but essentially they basically take a grocery store and go, what's the 10 most profitable products, and that's all they sell, right?
Well, I know, but, and then sometimes that's all, some people can afford,
Yeah.
you know,
Well,
so,
that's true.
you know, so.
I think the
I
part of
like
the problem is also with the ability to get a neighborhood market, like we're truly wanting, is that the people who build the stores, they don't want that. They want a place where they have plenty of parking all the way around it, you know, and access to big roads. They don't want to build a little neighborhood market.
Without density, right, they don't want
Yeah.
it without density, so
Exactly.
like, I just was pulling up on the screen here, we just did that zoning case, maybe about 6 months ago, where it was over here off of Villa, but they were gonna have big half acre lots, because they didn't have any sewer, but we made them reserve the front for commercial, and that's a little bit what we're talking about, but, a market couldn't go there. A market could support, 70 houses aren't gonna support a market, right? So if we can get into some of these places that have bigger swaths of land, one of my favorite pieces, I always tell people that are mixed-use developers, is to look over here, off of Villa, because there's an opportunity to get, you could get some density in the back, but then you could also lure a neighborhood or larger, mid-sized grocer to over here, because, they can still say, oh, well, we've got all these people, we've got Ovilla Road, but all these people in here can also walk into it. So
I know, it's like a dream of mine, just to have these, little mixed retail in neighborhoods, to just create that community vibe,
Yeah.
on a smaller scale.
Yep.
I
Well,
love the
yeah.
concept, I just don't know how practical it is.
See, it's unfortunately, it's not practical, because of the expense, the upfront expense. So, as a city, we would need to kind of wrap our heads around encouraging people to make small bets on small shops and small pieces, where their overhead is low and they're able to eke out a living until they maybe get a following and can maybe get a little bit bigger space or something. That's all very pie in the sky, and it's hard to,
Yeah,
because it's all market driven, right?
right.
And so we can encourage and help, but at the end of the day, if that business owner isn't making a sustainable business plan,
I know, but
too much.
we've had the conversation about downtown,
Yeah,
wanting to create that live-work environment and, do that, but that's a big idea.
yeah.
And,
It's a big idea, though, that can be taken down in small bites, with one person making one investment, and then the next person saying, oh, well, I'll do what they did.
yeah,
Yeah,
but I
that's
just
the
look at
hope.
the infrastructure that needs to probably happen in order to make those investments in that land.
Yeah.
The lack of parking, there would have to be an off-site parking and a shuttle or something that takes people over, I don't know.
Yeah, it just
There's a
depends on what your appetite for walking is, right? I
Right.
mean, there's thousands of on-street parking spaces down there. Now, they're not great, because you kind of have to park half in the ditch, half on the road. And
Right.
makes the road tight, and then you got fire and police concerns, and, you know, and then your one-way traffic, but, I mean, if that's something we wanted to come up with solutions for, I'd be fine with that. I mean, obviously, the two chiefs would have to weigh in on it, but,
Well, then you've got people who live in those neighborhoods. I think about Grapevine. You go to Grapevine Friday night through Sunday afternoon, and, you know, a lot of the neighborhoods have got tags. If you don't have a tag, you can't park. So, you know, there's the people getting their cars towed and whatnot,
yeah.
or circling around in the few public lots that there are.
Right, and I imagine that's a holdover from the original homeowners that had, you know, all of a sudden, the city was like, let's redo downtown, and they were like, no, there's too many.
There's already too many people.
But if you go into, like, Dallas area, you know, where those old neighborhoods, you know, have seen the cycles of homeowners, you know, coming in and out, and now people going there with the expectation, like, I'm where it's at, here's all the energy, and that's parking is just something I gotta deal with.
Yeah.
Cause you're in the mix. So, I know about that, I'm interested to see if it's a couple of cycles of homeownership that kind of dissipates.
Maybe they use it as revenue source for fun.
Maybe.
You can park on my property for $20 an hour.
Yeah.
They also talk about, connectivity and new neighborhoods connecting into existing neighborhoods, and that actually helping to increase the property values of existing, neighborhoods. And they kind of show some examples of communities kind of were against it for no particular reason, and, you know, their market value kind of limited, and then communities where they did allow it, you know, their value. So that's probably part of the citizen, some sort of solution that they have. But what were your opinions?
I think the connectivity is great, is important, not just for having more driving access before. I mean, we live in a neighborhood that's just a few streets. If I want to go for a walk, I have to cross Mule Road, which gets pretty busy in the mornings and stuff. I would like it if it had more connections to other neighborhoods that I could just walk through. It's kind of isolated, and there's a lot of neighborhoods that are like that, just isolated. And then had a way that you have to put in a neighborhood if there's one adjacent to you that has connection points. You know, you have to connect. I'm sure sometimes there's houses all the way down, there's nowhere to connect. An advantage to the residents as well as the traffic flow.
I think the opposite is a challenge. So you have a really nice neighborhood, and then somebody wants to build apartments right behind you. You know, that's probably, it's a better sale if you are the one that's being impacted by positive development, you know, the higher scale, you know, than the reverse of that.
Right, right.
Just from a developer standpoint, I mean, what do you think about that?
So they don't want to do it because that means they basically will lose, every street connection you make them make is a lot lost. Because that's where a house would go, like, I was just pulling up this, you know, you see this layout here where they've got homes backed all the way against the property lines with no stubs to the north. Now, at the time this was done, it was probably like, well, yeah, we don't want stubs into our industrial park, which makes sense. And then you've got like physical barriers. So for this instance here, I know there was a lot of heated discussions between the developers and the city about, and this is before me, just what I've heard, about making this connection.
Because it's across that creek.
Across the creek.
Yeah.
So.
Now, I was gonna mention that area, because there is just that one connection.
Yeah.
And I only know about that because we go look at Christmas lights over there. And to get from one to the other, there's only one way to do it.
One way to do it.
Yeah. So in general, it's often a fight between the developer and the city of lot layout and connectivity layout. And our ordinances only require, one connection. or one street stub to a neighboring property.
And Ben, you mentioned this earlier, but developers, it's market driven. So, you know, what's in this book is fantastic in theory, but I don't see any developers coming in saying, hey, I'm gonna give free commercial area up here, the way they talked about it.
Yeah.
To get these things in there. I just don't see that happening. I mean,
Yeah.
if we can force that and push that, that's great.
Well, that's one of the things that one of the chapter talks about, this one, or 11, is us driving it, not the developers.
Through like economic development grants and things like
Grant,
that, yeah.
Zoning, the regulations that we hold them to,
Expedited permitting process.
expedited permitting, yeah. If you follow our plan, we can do this faster,
Right.
which to them that's money, because
Right.
money today is worth more than money a year from now.
Right.
I think another, you know, that going back to it, that, you know, the density and the growth that we're seeing, I'm gonna go back to my last month, Debbie Downer thing that I've got, because I'm a little bit more down this month than I was last month about Mr. Chairman, you weren't here, but the total number of new homes that have now been flipped into rental property. And I unfortunately see that because of my job. I serve those eviction notices. And from last month to this month, it disheartened me more because I've had 12 more in that same addition in Camden that are now rental properties, not homeowners. And then you talk to the homeowners, and they're not happy. So now they're talking, two on each side, stop me to tell me they're ready to put their homes up for sale. So I say that to get back to this very same point that I think the council, and I plan to speak to the council, just to make people aware that we're wanting all this growth, and we're seeing all this growth, but I don't think the growth is what we think this growth is. I don't think it's homeowners. It may start out that way, but all of these that I'm serving are owned by the mortgage companies that they've lost it, and now they've had to flip it. They're not out there trying to resell that home. They need a body in that home. And so they're turning them, flip them into rental property. And, you know, just the number in the last 2 months that has come my way has been very concerning.
And which neighborhood is that?
Camden, right across from Eastridge Elementary, but really nice homes.
Is that the D.R. Horton?
Camden and D.R. Horton.
Camden, yeah. And I guess from that perspective, I'm just saying that
Yeah.
I think we gotta take a stop and look as a city on can we support this continued growth at this rate and turn this into something that we're really not wanting to turn it into. And I'm not saying that renters are all bad people, but I'm saying that they don't have the same level of care and investment as a homeowner. The one lady that I stopped and talked to the other day told me that the home was, she believes never purchased at all. It was built and the mortgage company or whoever owned it, they flipped it immediately into a rental, and she said there's been three renters in, they've been 2 years, they've been built, maybe. And
there's no HOA.
And there's no HOA, and so it's just a concern to me that, you know, you can look at some of the other communities around us, and I'm not gonna point anybody out, but it happened in another community near us, that all this new building and new homes came in, and those ended up being that way, and then people left, and it's a completely different view in that particular city than it was 20, 30 years ago when it was the jewel of the area. So I just have that, you know, and you see, I go down here and I see this construction every day in that area. There's new ones, and I'm wondering who's buying those homes. And I don't know the answer to that other than to say I don't believe that we need huge housing additions of rental property, because that impacts our schools. We already see what it's doing. Our schools are full,
I know.
very full, and without that investment that people have, I mean, you've got a very much lower, I guess, you've got a lower investment, so therefore you're not gonna get the same kind of tax impact, I believe, that we're gonna need to support all this.
We had a friend who wanted to move over here, and we drove through some of those neighborhoods, construction going on. Cars up on blocks, boats in the driveways. I mean, it was just, it was really not someplace I would want anybody that I know to move into. Nice houses, but your neighbors were gonna be, a lot of them were just gonna be questionable. And if they're not gonna take pride in ownership and take care of their property, they're not gonna be good neighbors.
And I think where that comes back to us is we continue to encourage this growth, and do we approve more housing additions and more housing additions and more housing additions, or are we really setting ourselves up for something that we don't want to deal with?
Probably what, $300,000 to $400,000 houses, $250,000 to $400,000?
I'd be surprised if you get a house in there for $250,
Yeah.
probably all over $300.
I don't know too many, I don't, and to listen to them in court on what they're paying in, well, not paying in rent. When they come up and say my rent's $2,600 a month, I don't know who can say, and I don't know,
Side note to that, the Camden Apartments that are going in over across from Hickory Creek, one bedroom, 600 square feet, $1,400 a
That's
month.
what you're talking about.
that's one of the cheapest around.
And who do I talk to about getting a traffic light? They're at Red Oak Road and Hickory Creek. Is that Hickory Creek?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
We talked to Public Works, but I don't know if the traffic counts are gonna warrant it.
They will, when people start moving in there, it's already 5 and 6 deep to get across that
Yeah.
So I have a
divided
question.
4-lane.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there a way we could enforce HOAs in these new neighborhoods?
Yeah, this neighborhood does have an
Oh,
HOA.
it does?
Yeah,
So what
and all, our subdivision ordinance requires all new, subdivisions to have HOAs as well.
Okay.
How active they are?
They're sure.
How much they enforce it?
And the developer runs the first few years, still, I think often, right? The developer kind of
Yeah,
hands it over.
typically the developer, and then he'll hand it over, it depends on how it goes, right?
Yeah,
So
built
sometimes
out
they'll
or-
sell them immediately to one or two builders. For example, in Oakmont next door has two builders, and so the developer turned it over almost immediately to two builders, to manage, and then it usually gets, after they do their elections and all that stuff, they'll still have a property, kind of a HOA property maintenance.
Management company, yeah.
Yeah,
So
because
those really stuff.
there's a lot of, yeah, they're bad.
Yeah, semi-built out there.
Because there's a lot of maintenance to do on the detention ponds and
Right.
things like that.
It doesn't get done, yep. The other question is, to your point, is there, what does it take to, and I hate to use this word, but put a moratorium on building for a period of time?
Council action.
Yeah.
I don't know that they could not put a moratorium on titled property, as in like
Or
the,
has it done.
yeah, like this is already platted and zoned.
Oh, yeah.
So we couldn't, if someone submitted a building permit to build a house right here, we couldn't tell them
Right,
no.
but if it was an unplatted piece of farmland, I mean, now you're telling property owners what the value of their property is. So, I mean, I'm just wondering how we could slow it down.
I've seen cities do moratoriums, it's more of like, they literally had to do it because they had such robust growth and so few staff members that they couldn't even do anything because they were answering the phone all day.
Get a
right, or
permit,
something
yeah.
like that. And so, from a moratorium in our case, that's not really the case. But if the council just said, let's not do any development for 10 years, I guess they could do that.
Some cities have entered lawsuits.
Yeah, I was about to say, you'd probably get
Yeah.
some challenges and some lawsuits.
Sure to be a lot of
Fine.
Wasn't
challenges.
it in this book somewhere that it said that, sometimes the moratorium backfires and makes the property value shoot up because now you can only develop a few spots?
Yeah, and I, you know, I can see that, and I'm certainly not against the growth, but I am against, you know, placing so much infrastructure requirements on the city to be able to take care of these roadways, things like that, and then not have that tax base solid to take care of those, because if, you know, you end up with, let's just say, 10 of those homes now empty, who's gonna pay for that, the rest of us? Because, so the money's gotta come from somewhere to continue to maintain.
Well, they're still responsible for the taxes, I mean, unless
Right.
they lose it in a tax auction, and then typically it still gets paid, because someone else buys the
Right.
tax note.
Right, right, yeah, but in the real.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what happens in the real
Well,
world,
but I'm
right?
saying, empty homes
Oh,
don't drive sales tax.
sure,
Empty homes don't drive,
yeah.
and those,
And I don't, honestly, with the prices of these homes, I don't even know how, like, the old adage was always like, you know, make it bigger and make it more expensive to keep it from turning into a rental property. $350,000
that's
for a
why
house.
it blows me away.
That's crazy.
That's,
I don't even know how those numbers work for someone.
I don't either, and that's what blows me away, is
So-
I have friends that pay $3,000 a month in rent, so that would cover the note
Yeah.
and the mortgage and some of the.
But not the taxes. I mean, on
Yeah.
a 400,000, 350, 400, that's like $7,000 a year. That is wild. So I don't know where to go to actually stop, you know, that from occurring, because we can't restrict to owner occupant, you know, like, so, I'm not sure where that segment of the market is headed that can afford to pay $3,000 a month for a little bit. But then they can't afford to actually buy a house.
Right.
I don't understand
Well,
that.
and that's what the neighbors that have talked to me is that there's somebody usually there for about 3 months,
Yeah,
turn around and flipping it to somebody else for 3 months.
uh-huh.
And, again, that was just their words, we are very.
Whoever's renting is getting the first and the last month, and
Right. Yeah, because we're doing all of the written possessions for the mortgage companies, and, you know, there's one attorney firm out in Houston that we deal with on a pretty regular basis that has all of those, Barry and Scott or something like that. I'm just really blown away about how that's happened, and it throws a concern to me about.
Because one of those, you know, I walk to those, you know, to the, model homes and ask them, hey, do y'all sell to investors? So they first answer is no. But then you got Scott come behind that and said, hey, these 12 gotta get evicted, so who's buying them homes?
Yeah, so I'll tell, I know a little bit more about this, the Camden, the guys who originally developed it, they build them and keep them. So it's all owned by Ted and his group. So he sold off half the lots to DR, kept the other half, maybe sold a few. And the same thing over in Creek Bend, now. In Oakmont, it's not the same, it's a different group, different builders. But I don't know how to keep that from occurring through the legal means that we have. But I'll tell you, what we don't have is a lot of opportunity to build things like this anymore, like these subdivisions that are a little more, they're not small lot, but they're smaller than half acre. So I don't see us being able to do a lot of this anymore. Now, we have some area down here, you know, this development's under construction, and that's with a whole different group, that's Bloomfield and, some of those other, guys that, they strictly sell. So,
Since you're going south down the highway, what about the area down close to, the Walgreens distribution center?
that's all Waxahachie.
Is that, yeah, I know that's Waxahachie, but is that, I've heard that it's going to be a Frisco-esque kind of development. And Jerry Jones is gonna make it Frisco South.
Yeah, I believe Jerry Jones has purchased a lot of
A lot of
land around here. I'm
Have you
sure
heard
he's got-
anything about what they're planning to build down there?
I'm sure it's a just massive master plan community with a bunch of subdivisions with windy streets, and I'm sure they'll have apartments, up near the road with retail and
Retail,
commercial,
yeah.
and they have just standard Texas highway development, I'm sure.
Okay.
But I'm also, they will probably have some more forward-thinking things there, I would guess, just because I know Waxahachie's got a bigger planning staff now, and, you know, they would probably be pushing for those types of things.
I'm just thinking if that starts here, I mean, it would make it easier to get people to come and developers to come and do similar projects
Yeah, right down the road,
right down the road.
at maybe a lower land base cost.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, so, go to chapter 11. This chapter, they kind of concluded as to basically what can be done to promote smart, sustainable growth and actually to create neighborhoods. And they said there are 3 tools that are really crucial to creating this type of neighborhood instead of just subdivision. They mentioned design, policy, and management. What were your thoughts on those 3 tools and how the city can communities and how they can together kind of influence?
One of the things that I got out of 11 was the discussion about regional cooperation. You know, us with Lancaster and DeSoto and Waxahachie, and creating a plan for this whole stretch. I like the idea of that because there's some synergy there, potentially some synergy. Whereas if we just all go out and do our own thing, will we get that? I don't know, do we do anything like that now?
We gotta do that now. I guess I don't know what.
With roadways.
Yeah, with, I was gonna say.
Not from a planning and aesthetics, perspective, but the thought is mostly that people grow where roads go. So, if you have a transportation plan, the development will just backfill itself.
Right.
So that's probably kind of the idea, but I think in general, there's probably you know, to me, I see there's a real North Texas aesthetic, you know?
But then, have you heard of the North Central Texas Council of Governments?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so they do a lot of regional planning with, like, Ben said.
It's more like infrastructure.
Yeah,
stuff.
and
It's
it also does like bike plans, like pedestrian,
Yeah.
you know, accessibility, so that's with.
How much are we on the table with them right now? I know that when, Mayor Hughley was here, he was on that. The reason I say that is we need to be at the table. I was part of COG back in the school district. I was a representative for a little while, and kind of got to see how that worked. If you were there,
Yeah.
you were okay. If you were not there, you became the armpit of the body. And I don't know what we need to do to get in there, but we need to get in there.
Yeah.
Because we have seen a huge difference, or I've seen a huge difference
Sure.
sitting on there, all of a sudden our district was involved and we were getting this, and the grant stuff was coming, and
Right,
then when we pulled out of that, for some reason,
yeah.
it disappeared.
So I think we're gonna be re-engaging them soon on Stevenson Road. We're looking at, we're right now putting together some documents. I don't know if you guys ever saw the text dot, when 664, there was all those big color drawings and things like that. We're putting some of those together for the Stevenson Road connector so that it, can go across the 342 and across the railroad and across the creek and then over the highway or under the highway, depending on what we kind of show. And that's a massive project that we would need their help on. So we're putting together those documents so that we can kind of.
Which is Stevenson Road?
It's just north of the Oaks Church. It's, right now, it's not so much a road, but a bunch of gravel.
Oh, and that, the lower area that floods.
Yeah.
Skunk Hollow.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I didn't, be honest, I
Yeah.
didn't know that was there until I was
That's
on the frontage road, and a policeman had shut it down because it was flooded down there. It wasn't flooded in the creek, but it was flooded down there.
Yeah, that was its original name,
Okay.
Skunk Hollow Road.
All right. I was curious, yeah, Kim and I meant to go back and see what's back there. So, in talking about this, and, you know, I don't, it would be years before we could ever get to where we were. Attracting businesses, corporations, and to bring in groups that would build these office buildings, you know, white-collar type office buildings. I think one of our problems is connectivity to back up into town. And, you know, when I lived over in Glen Heights and gas got to $4 a gallon 20 years ago, not long after we moved there, it took me, I figured out it would take me 2.5 hours to go from Glen Heights to Carrollton on DART. That's using buses, trains, the local, smaller buses and stuff. 2 to 2.5 hours. And if I miss the connection, you know, add an hour.
Yeah.
You know, for us to grow, and that's what takes me to the whole regional discussion, is attracting, as a region, attracting more infrastructure for that type of thing, you know. Maybe a light rail further south than South Dallas, you know.
Yeah, people just flip out about trains. They just lose their mind. I don't understand it. I understand it and I don't understand it, but,
They do.
But-
We had that discussion years ago with the downtown area,
Yeah.
and having that turn into a station, really nice, beautiful drawing, and people went bananas.
yeah, well, what is the, what is the, I don't even.
In their mind, what they brought in their mind was that it brings crime, and it brings all of these kind of things, but even in the book, it talks about what kind of station do you have?
Right.
You don't have the park bench with cover, and it's a bus station that looks like, and we tried to show that that's what it would be.
Yeah.
That whole area was that was how we were gonna develop the downtown area.
Right.
And we got it from not only citizens, but we got it from everywhere.
That's
That
wild.
we were just bringing another dark problem, to the area. So, you know, and talking about the connectivity and everything that they were discussing in there, that was there's the hindrance.
Yeah.
We've got a hindrance there that we can't bring anything in, and we got a huge hindrance that we have 2 east-west thoroughfares, and that's it. And, you know, we have Ovilla, we have Red Oak Road. We have nothing else that connects one side of this, where this huge population influx is supposed to be happening according to COG,
Right.
and I-35.
Which is why our Stevenson connectors, that's gonna be one of them. That'll be a great, because that will go, essentially goes to 45 as well. A little circuitous, but you can get there pretty easily.
I think that's, you know, I think that's the answer to commercial, we have to have another larger road to carry some of that commercial, and so, but again, that goes back to, again, being on that, being up there with COG, and I don't wanna say we have to do a little brown nosing, but you had to, I mean, you had to play the game to get in there to the table, and it made a huge impact and difference.
Right.
Well, isn't it that, like, our county has one representative and Collin County has 12 or 15 or
Right.
something, so we get very little attention from them.
Absolutely. I think those are huge. What, Ben, can I ask a question? I've heard Red Oak is supposed to, build into this population. I've heard 10 million different estimations. What is the true one that COG just put on us, or whoever it is?
So the numbers, I believe, include like the ETJ, and if you remember, our ETJ, you know, is crazy, and it goes all, you know, all out these ways, but I thought it was something in the 40s.
That's what I thought.
But I think some, assumptions were made that along those ETJs, that there would be a sewer solution besides septic.
Right.
And so, if that's the case, then, yeah, 40 is not insane. If there's no sewer solution, we're not even gonna get close to 40.
Absolutely. Well,
So-
that was exactly where I was going with that. And with, you know, I think a lot of people started believing that we're gonna be this very, very, very large city, largest city in Ellis County, I kept hearing, and all this other stuff. But I never could figure out where that infrastructure was gonna come from, you know. ERA
Yeah.
us already, and they're already killing us, all of us that are paying water, sewer. And we don't have a solution to that, so I don't.
Right.
You know, again, that goes back to, again, the growth and how we're growing and what we can afford to be as a city. So all of these things are good, but if we don't have that place at the table, and it's all expected to be the city's out of our pocket, it's not gonna happen, and
Right.
I'm concerned with it, so.
Yeah. Extraterritorial jurisdiction. So typically, cities, and I can't remember all of the little nuances, but basically you take your city limits and you get a half mile around it to control. And if you're a bigger city, you get a whole mile. So like Fort Worth, ETJ, freaking, it's humongous, it's crazy. But ours is about a half mile, and that just means at the time, when the ETJ was established, that we could annex in property if it met its certain criteria.
I like our discussion about the, city limits going out 664, 9.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was when cities could annex without property owner approval.
Right, we used to be able to get a certain amount.
Involuntary.
Involuntary per year.
So now it's only voluntary.
Voluntary. And that, regional wise, I mean, I think we really need to be in there with Waxahachie as much as we can. And this is not a disrespect, Ferris was my hometown, but I'd much rather be in there at the table with Waxahachie than I would be Ferris.
Sure.
Simply because that area is gonna come, and how we develop it together. You can kind of look at even going to Mesquite and some of those areas that direction, and you see where the borderline turns into something that's not quite so good right outside. And I'm not, you know, saying anything's wrong with specific city that I won't visit it, because I don't wanna take shots at somebody. But that's, they weren't in there developed together, and they become the armpit of that area. And that's something I hope we really never face, that we can get in there and be part of that regional. Waxahachie definitely got it going, so, you know, they've got the type of Jerry Joneses and people in there that's gonna develop that area in a good way. We just need to be part of that. And I think the transit piece of that would be huge to work with them on, because they obviously have that same.
Yeah, because wasn't the train going to
Going in.
Waxahachie?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and Yeah, it took a lot of resistance at Waxahachie at that time. It also took some resistance of landowners, and it also had the railroad itself, it was going to go and be utilized next to the railroad. And there became an issue with that. Now, that was years ago, so it doesn't mean that we can't get back in there on the table and look at that. I think that would, again, be an amazing way to develop that downtown, because if you've got a transit area there, you can develop that, you're gonna have the commercial business, all of that stuff's in there, you don't have to have near as many parking spaces and things in there. I think that way, so.
So are we so far down the path that we can't institute some of these things?
Maybe not like in an ideal fashion.
Can we cherry pick?
Yes, yep. So I mean,
We won't hold you to it, but what would you like to do?
I mean, for instance, this piece of land that I was talking about up here, that this to me has a great opportunity to get the commercial guys and then also some walkability from the neighborhood standpoint, and hopefully that can spur some redevelopment of the Beckley Pike, because it's just awful in there.
Why?
Beckley Pikes is
Carson Overlook, Moreview.
subdivision that was done, prior to this, probably the city's even existence, right?
Can you zoom in a little bit and point to it?
Yeah. It's right here at the corner of, here's a villa at 35, and so it's got,
Oh, okay.
you got the two kind of nice buildings here, and then behind it, it's
Oh, yeah.
sea
I know
of
what you're
trailer
talking
parks and metal buildings and,
Rainbow Body.
yeah.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. What about you, Emma?
The same concept, especially when developers come in, us guiding them in the right direction, and that we can encourage, our growth. Would also be a really certain key areas, so that we can kind of take away traffic from certain areas in Red Oak and kind of distribute it. The book also talks about, the state's role in schools and how it affects, moving, these larger institutions and them being more of a smaller, areas and areas for community and gathering, rather than,
Pocket schools.
right, rather than schools being, points of demarcation, certain boundaries,
Mhm.
and this zip code, you go here. So what were your thoughts on that? Having maybe these smaller, schools rather than having these larger schools where typically students underperform in those, establishments because they don't have as much focus and attention on them because it's just so much.
I totally agree with it, and I think that we've seen that with Frisco and the success of Frisco by, Frisco, for those that haven't lived here forever, was nothing. I mean, you drove through Frisco and there was a water tower that had a raccoon on it and a gas station that closed at 6 o'clock. We played baseball at the high school, junior high, elementary all together, and that was Frisco, if y'all remember. But they have, our head football coach and athletic director left here, a larger school to go to Frisco, and everybody looked at him like, what is he doing? He's going to Frisco. Well, they knew what they were doing, and they developed several schools, and they kept them as very strong academically throughout that. The other side of that is what we're facing right now. Building more schools means you gotta pass bonds.
Yeah.
And
We can't get that done.
so I would say that in theory, it's an absolutely amazing idea, and I think it will benefit the city and the whole regional area, if there's a change in philosophy with it. But, they do perform better. They do, they are safer.
Well, you're more than just a name and a class roster. You're, the kids know their teachers better because there aren't as many. That makes perfect sense. Yeah, I think about when I was a kid, my biggest class was maybe 15, 20.
So less kids are ostracized because they know each other, there's better relationships, it's healthier. Kids are walking more, and also there's a study that showed that kids that actually could walk to school, they were healthy both physically and mentally. So, another concept that was discussed, that could help cities and also help Red Oak was, the architect's impact on, so not just using the design of the buildings, but actually using urban design, which could impact human behavior. So, I think that staff can also encourage that, for PDs, to make sure, that some of these, criteria, that they even left the traditional, new urban design manual at the back to kind of incorporate some of those concepts.
Isn't that a lot of what you did in your previous career, Meg, was architectural stuff? Yeah.
No, and
We have design charrettes with the city, for the public to come, and we gave them paper and, you know, maps and stuff, and they helped us. We found out what they wanted.
Yeah.
So it was that buy-in that was so important, that.
I think as somebody that's been on council for a long time, the most important piece is you guys. Because truthfully, how you hold it and put it together, you know, me as a council member, I was not an expert in any of these areas whatsoever. And we were only gonna be as strong as the people in y'all's position brought us. And I think that, you know, anybody who gets on a council that doesn't believe in that, shouldn't be on council or a board, because they're, you know, I'm not the expert in that area, you are. And I think y'all've got to have that kind of support, and I think that you really have to be able to get up there and say, hey, this is the vision, not just a plan on paper, because I'll be real honest with you, the first time they threw comprehensive plans and all this stuff in here the very first time, I had no idea what the hell they were talking about anymore. Okay, yeah, that's great, for all I knew. So, you know, I think it goes back to what I was saying last month, it's you guys being able to say, we have an idea and a plan, and getting the leaders to follow that. And, you know, I always used to say this, that if you screwed up, I'm coming for your job, okay? But as long as you're doing the right thing for the city, and you guys are, your focus is the city, then I better be here and ready to support you. Doesn't mean I ain't gonna have a question, but that's really important.
Well, when it comes to schools, don't we have to consider what the school board would, how do we work together with the school board to make a change like smaller schools?
I would think that'd be something, I mean, that's a big political snafu.
Exactly, right?
And then probably even, what would really do it is a mandate from the state,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It would have to
The
kind of.
PTA has to be.
Yeah,
part
I
of
mean,
that.
you're talking about a pretty massive overhaul of a very entrenched way of life, right?
Right.
But not to say that it couldn't be done,
Right.
especially if people who are on school boards are telling the state, hey, this is what we want to do, we just need more resources.
Right.
And the communication piece of it they were talking about in here, that's extremely important, especially in our school district, when you have multiple cities or communities involved in one school district.
Right.
You know, Allen ISD may not have a problem passing things, because that's 99.9% of that is the city of Allen.
Right.
But here we're talking about Red Oak and Glen Heights and Ovilla and Pecan Hill and Oakleaf, and if you're not all in one, then it makes it really, really hard to get that stuff through.
All right, commissioners, anything else I want to add?
What do we read for next time?
The other book? Chapters, yeah, the new book.
New book.
Yes, we're done with Suburban Nation, so yay.
Which for a technical type book was readable. Very readable.
Yeah.
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 It's fun too, so.
So at the first couple chapters of that,
Yeah, do you all want to do the first 3 chapters, like we did on Suburbanation?
if they're like that, Lee?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that was White
So we'll do chapters 1 through 3 of the drawing house.
Will be a test.
All right, can I have a motion to close the, meeting tonight?
Motion to close.
All in favor?
Mr. Bedford voting.